The house had been his for years, a quiet, unassuming place at the end of the street, nestled between two towering oaks that had stood there long before he moved in. He liked the solitude, the silence, the sense of being separate from the world. His home was small but familiar, every inch of it well worn under his own hands. That's why, when he found the door, something deep inside him went cold. It was in the hallway between the living room and the kitchen. He must have walked past it 1,000 times. Yet now, here it was, an old wooden door with a tarnished brass handle, as though it had always been there. The wallpaper around it was seamless, untouched, giving no sign that anything had been changed or added. But it had to be new. He would have noticed it before, he was sure of that. He reached for the knob. It didn't turn, locked. That should have been the end of it. Maybe his mind was playing tricks. Maybe he had just overlooked it all these years. But the idea settled into his bones like a sickness, and he couldn't let it go. That night, he barely slept. The house was quiet, except for the occasional creak of wood expanding in the cold. But somehow, it felt different. The silence had weight to it, a presence that pressed in around him. The next morning, he stood before the door again, running his fingers along its edges. The wood felt rough, splintered in places. His breath came a little quicker than he liked. He told himself it was just an old storage space, something the previous owner had locked and forgotten about. But his mind wouldn't accept it. He needed to know what was inside. He searched the house for something, anything, that could force it open. A screwdriver, a hammer. Nothing worked. The lock wouldn't budge. The hinges wouldn't give. It was as if the door was part of the wall itself, never meant to be opened. That night, he dreamed of the door. In his sleep, he saw it standing alone in the middle of an endless black space. He was walking toward it, though his feet never touched the ground. The closer he got, the heavier his body felt, as if invisible hands were pressing him back. Then, just as he reached for the handle, the door opened from the other side. He woke up gasping, the air in his room thick and humid. The dream felt real in a way that left his skin clammy, his chest tight. He rolled over, eyes flicking to his bedroom door, still closed. But in the darkness of the hallway, where only the faintest light from the street lamp outside spilled in, he could just make out the shape of the other door. It was still there, waiting. Over the next few days, he became obsessed. He searched through his house records, looking for blueprints, anything that could explain its existence. Nothing. The space where the door stood wasn't even supposed to be there. He tried ignoring it, going about his daily routine, convincing himself it didn't matter. But every time he passed by, his stomach clenched. Sometimes he thought he heard something faint. From the other side, a soft, slow scratching. It wasn't until the fourth night that something changed. He woke to the sound of something metallic clicking open. At first, he thought it was part of a dream. But then he realized he was fully awake. His bedroom was bathed in the dim blue glow of his alarm clock. The air was still, thick with the scent of old wood. And then he heard it again, the door unlocking. He sat up too fast, his head swimming. The house was silent. His pulse thundered in his ears. Slowly, he swung his legs over the bed and stepped onto the cold floor. Each movement felt heavy, deliberate, as if something unseen was guiding him forward. The hallway stretched before him, shrouded in darkness, and at the end of it, the door stood slightly ajar. A sliver of pitch-black space beyond it gaped like an open mouth. His breath came in shallow bursts. Every rational thought in his mind screamed to turn back, to lock himself in his room, to pretend this wasn't happening. But his feet carried him forward. He reached the door, heart hammering against his ribs. The wood was colder now, almost damp under his fingertips. The gap was just wide enough to see the faintest hint of something beyond, a space where no space should exist. Then, before he could stop himself, he pushed it open and stepped inside. The moment his foot crossed the threshold, the air changed. It was thick, stagnant, carrying the scent of dust and something faintly metallic. He stepped forward cautiously, his pulse hammering in his throat. The room before him should not have existed. It was fully furnished, as though someone had been living there all along. A large wooden bed sat against the far wall, its sheets neatly tucked, though they looked ancient, faded, brittle at the edges. A small writing desk stood beneath a window, its surface covered in scattered papers, some yellowed with age. An old wooden rocking chair rested in the corner, angled slightly toward the door, as if someone had been sitting there, waiting. But the strangest thing was the light. A dim, flickering glow illuminated the space, emanating from a single table lamp on the nightstand. It cast long, stretching shadows that twisted as he moved, but there were no cords, no bulbs, just a small, pulsing light deep within the glass. His breath caught. He had expected, what? An empty storage space? A bricked-up section of the house? Certainly not. This. His fingers twitched as he reached out, brushing the edge of the bed's blanket. The fabric crumbled under his touch, disintegrating into fine dust. His stomach twisted. The air smelled wrong, thick with something like mildew, but sharper. His eyes flicked to the writing desk. The papers were scattered, some curled at the edges as if exposed to dampness. Carefully, he picked one up. The ink was faded, the handwriting spidery and uneven. I can hear them at night, scratching, whispering. The door won't stay locked. His breath stuttered. He set it down and picked up another. I don't know how long I've been here. Time doesn't move right. Sometimes the door leads somewhere else. Sometimes it doesn't open at all. A chill ran through him. He looked around again, suddenly hyper-aware of the space. The air pressed in, thick and heavy. The shadows seemed deeper now, like they had weight. His gaze landed on the rocking chair. It was moving just a little, just enough to notice. A slow rhythmic creak as it rocked back and forth. His stomach dropped. He hadn't touched it. The air in the room shifted. He turned sharply, his heart in his throat. The door, his way out, stood open behind him, the hallway beyond it impossibly dark. But something felt different. Office. He took a step back. The floor creaked beneath him, and then, from the shadows of the room, something shifted. A sound, soft, almost imperceptible, rose from the farthest corner. Not quite a whisper, not quite a breath. A presence. His skin prickled. He stepped backward, one foot crossing the threshold. The air in the room seemed to pull, like something wanted him to stay. But he couldn't. He wouldn't. With a sharp breath, he turned and ran. His feet pounded against the hallway floor. The walls seemed narrower, the ceiling lower. The air had weight, pressing against his skin. When he reached his bedroom, he slammed the door shut and locked it. His breaths came fast and ragged. The silence in the house was deafening. Minutes passed, maybe hours. Eventually, Exhaustion pulled at him, dragging him into a restless sleep. But even in his dreams, he could still hear it, the slow, rhythmic creak of the rocking chair, and the soft click of the door unlocking again. The morning light was weak, barely pushing through the thick curtains of his bedroom. His body felt heavy, his limbs sluggish, like he had barely slept at all. He sat up slowly, the events of the night before pressing into his mind like a dull headache. The room, the chair, the door unlocking on its own. His eyes flicked to his bedroom door, still shut. The hallway beyond it was silent. For a moment, he considered the possibility that it had all been a dream, a fevered hallucination brought on by stress. But then he stepped into the hallway, his breath caught. The door was gone, not just closed, not just locked, gone. The wall where it had been was seamless. The same old wallpaper, the same wooden molding, no hinges, no outlines, as if it had never been there at all. His stomach clenched. He stepped forward, pressing his hands against the wall, feeling for anything, any trace of the doorway. There was nothing. Had he imagined the entire thing? Had his mind created that room, that space? But then he noticed something, a faint glow. He turned sharply, his pulse stuttering. It was coming from the wall itself, just at the height where the doorknob had been. A tiny, flickering light, barely visible in the daylight. His fingers hovered over it. The glow pulsed, dimming slightly as if responding to his presence. And then he saw it, a thin sliver of light stretching down the wall, outlining an unseen shape, a door frame. His breath hitched. It wasn't gone. It had just shifted. Something deep in his gut told him he shouldn't touch it, that he should turn away, leave the house, never come back. But he couldn't. He reached out, pressing his palm flat against the glowing outline. The wall was cold, and then, beneath his fingers, he felt it, a slow, deliberate pulse, like the faintest beat of a heart. His breath shuddered out of him. The light flickered. Then, click, the door unlocked. A deep, groaning creak filled the air as the invisible door pushed inward, revealing darkness beyond. Not the same room as before, something else, a space too black, too deep. And from within that darkness, something moved, a shape shifting just beyond the threshold, something that had been waiting. His mind screamed at him to run, to slam the door shut, to do anything but stand there. But his feet wouldn't move. The thing in the darkness came closer, and then, for the first time, he heard it, not whispering, not scratching, a voice, low, hollow, and it said his name. The world around him shuddered. The last thing he saw before the door swallowed him whole was the light in the room behind him, still on, and then nothing.